I want to bring in my guest, though. We are joined, my man, even got here early. Peter Coffin. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah,
How
I'm
you
making up for it.
I needed you here early, so that's great. And I was finished my spiel on that topic. How you doing? You doing all right?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing well. Peter Coffin is a journalist with over 250,000 YouTube subscribers, podcaster, and author. In their book, Custom Reality and You, they explore a world where profit is the driving force. That is indeed our world. Commodification, pretty much everything, right?
Yeah,
It's like commodification of
making
sex.
everything into property, man.
Yeah. Commodification of rage. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
great Black Mirror episode where the guy does all of this work. There's a black guy who's in a room, basically poor, and they were working on a credit system. And the women who would come out, do singing and everything else, if they didn't do well, they would send them into porn. And he comes on stage angry and rageful. And I think he even had a knife to his throat.
Yeah, it was a piece
And
of glass.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, no, I remember this one. This was a real good one.
Commodification of rage.
And then he has to perform it like every day. He's
Yep.
got the piece of glass and like a case that's got like foam in it and stuff.
And it was a release valve for the public that was very
Yeah.
angry at the system. And he played that role, a commodified rage.
It was the guy from Get Out.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now, but man, he did a great job in that movie too. But like, particularly in that, I liked that was the first time I saw that guy, and he did such a great job in that. Like, that was part of why I went to see Get Out. I'm also a
It's
Key and
creepy,
Peele
though.
fan.
But it's creepy when you think about it.
It is
It's true. Like,
absolutely true.
if I get on YouTube and scream out, like, what is Jimmy Dore? And I'm not saying this is a negative. I'm just saying as a flat fact. When he is screaming at something, hell, when I'm on the radio in the morning, like my producer came to me one day, it's like, yeah, my family members like, why do you scream so much in the morning? That's why I'm getting shit out. Like I'm pissed off if I'm doing a monologue. That is the commodification of rage. You're paid on some level to assuage a certain part of the population, the feelings of that part of the population by emulating them in some way, meaning they feel something from you in that you're paid for that, which is.
Well, you're having a conversation with your audience, and like the thing is we all see these things; they all exist, and we're all mad about them. And if at least somebody says it, at least somebody has said it, you know.
Exactly.
And the thing is, that's not a bad thing. That's the problem. Is there's a fine line that I've been trying to walk for a very long time, where I am not only saying these things publicly, I'm writing books, I'm making documentaries, and I make money off of these things because this is how the world works.
Right.
I don't make a lot of money off of them, right? But like, I do make money off of them.
Yeah.
And so it's a fine line. You have to kind of be like, all right, well, I want to be authentic here. I don't want to say this in a manner where it diverts people's energy away from actually doing things. And it's very, very hard to do that. But I think that you do a good job of that in particular, because I don't feel like people just stop here. I feel like that this is thoughtful conversation that kind of prompts people to think as well.
I just tell people what I think.
Yeah.
There's no magic to it. I mean, it really is.
No, there isn't.
It's
just, you got to be careful, but there isn't magic to it.
Yeah, this is like this message. This is literally my thoughts. Like when I bring people on, it's because I'm interested in a subject matter. Like Hamza talking about Pakistan or India, or Anna Guh when we were talking about China. It's an interest. It's like I get fascinated by this stuff, like just the inner workings of how. Yeah, I get fascinated by it, and so
Same.
I just talk about the stuff that fascinates me.
No, I watch your show specifically for that reason. So,
dude, I appreciate that. It always weirds me out a little bit when people tell me that. I don't know why. It's like, obviously I'm doing a show for people to watch, right? But it always weirds me out. It's like, I watch the show. It's like, do you? Oh God.
I get the same thing. No, believe me, I get the same thing, because I'll stream and I'll talk about something, and then somebody will say like, I watched that. I'm like, oh, did you? Oh, okay. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Did you?
Donald Trump's approval rating is plummeting. And this This is like brutal. Now, I would say it should plummet. He has no wins. You could say immigration is a win, but you are deporting people to foreign countries because you
I
don't
think
belong,
that
which is
people
just
don't.
outrageous.
I don't think that people actually wanted what he's doing, because he's actually doing less than the previous presidents. He's just doing it in the most obnoxious and angry possible way. And I think that's actually worse for
You
most
think he's
people,
doing
including
less? Can you
like
do less?
well, I mean, arguably speaking, he has not reached the numbers of previous presidents. However, he is doing it in a way that it's I think you can't characterize it as anything other than violent, more or less.
Well, explain what you mean by that. You say he's not doing it. What is it?
Deporting people. Like, if you look at the
Oh,
actual just like straightforward deportation numbers, he has not matched either the two previous presidents. However, the way he's doing it is not like, I don't think anybody really, I think that even the people who were like, we need to deport more people, weren't really thinking that it would look like, you know, I hesitate to say this because I don't want to be the person that's like, he's a fascist. But there's reminders of certain images from history in how he's deporting people. You know what I mean?
yeah. So that I agree with you on. He gyrates a lot,
Yeah.
but I think he's doing more. I think he's hyperactive. It's just
He
he's
may
not
he
getting
may
anything
pass
done.
them. I don't know, but I don't think he has yet.
Well, no, I don't think he will. I think this is a performance.
Right.
Like
You think he'll shut it off
the
eventually?
notion that you take somebody and deport them to El Salvador when they're Venezuelan is outrageous.
But it's
The
crazy.
notion that you take somebody who is supposed to be in this country and you define them yourself, no court or anything like that, as a terrorist, and then use that self definition to deport them to El Salvador is outrageous. When the judge tells you, bring them back, you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Even though you've brought back other people from El Salvador and you admit that you made a mistake. It's mean spirited. It's, I would argue, racist in many respects. And if you want
It's
to call
at
it fashion,
very least racially insensitive. At bare minimum, it's racially insensitive. I think arguably racist. But like, I don't think that anybody who is trying to argue against it being racist can be backed up past racial insensitivity. I feel like if somebody's like, it's not racist, you have to be like, well, it's racially insensitive at bare minimum. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like you can maneuver your way out of
that
that.
box.
You know what I mean?
So this is Mahmoud Khalil Muhammad.
Yeah, this whole thing is just absolutely, like, as much as like there's controversy around Mahmoud Khalil Muhammad and who he has worked for in the past, et cetera, et cetera. But as a standard of like what this country stands for, what our Constitution says, what our immigration laws are, they're more or less deporting this man for having an opinion. And that's insane.
They didn't, and just to put this in context, and the reason why I'm showing this is because the document points out that they didn't even have a warrant for him.
Yeah.
And it says here, officers had exigent circumstances to conduct a warrantless arrest. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Who? Okay,
Like, that's
first
fucking
off,
outrageous. I mean, I know I'm dropping the F-bomb, but that's outrageous.
it
You
is.
just you
I mean,
deport-
it's using the word, like, here's the thing that bothers me there too, is it's using a word that they know that people are going to be like, well, what's that even mean? What's exigent? Like, they're using it on purpose because I think they think that people won't, like, if they're confused by it, that they won't have an opinion as much. But I think that actually backfired. I don't, because I've seen that quote before, and it's like, no, you're literally talking about a warrantless arrest here. I don't think you can
yes.
use words to distract from that.
There is no distraction from the warrantless part. That's outrageous. Like, it's not like he
No, it's
was robbing a
insane.
bank. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
outrageous.
well, yes, exactly.
I mean, what is, like, they need to define that. What is the exigent circumstance? That Donald Trump wanted him gone? This is nonsense. Right?
Yeah, you can't just say fancy word and that's that. Like, no, there's circumstances that you need to outline, especially in a court document like this.
Yes. And to make this even worse, I've been making this point about due process matters.
Yes.
It matters, right?
I've also been, hammering
It's a
on
big
that.
deal. Come to find out, thankfully, the American public agrees. So
Yes.
when they look at Donald Trump and they were doing his approval, one of the things that they pointed out was this. Abrego Garcia, who was recently deported to El Salvador, that still blows my mind. It still blows my mind. Deported to Garcia despite a court order prohibiting his deportation. 50% of Americans say Trump should bring him back to the U.S. 28% say they should. Like twice as many people look at that and say, that is outrageous.
Yeah.
How are you doing that? And to keep going, Democrats overwhelmingly say Trump should bring him back. 67% to 6%. Jesus Christ. While independents by 2-1, 50 to 23. Republicans are heartless assholes who are not giving a shit about due process. They did give a shit about due process when he was going after Trump, by the way. But
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing: is they don't know anything about this. They're not the Trump. The fandom is not notified about any of this, any of the exigent circumstances of the.
I mean,
going, they're not. We're people who look into this kind of a thing. An independent minded. I definitely fall into that independent category, not the Democrat category. But I do think that he should be brought back, and is because I've looked into that situation, and again, like they sent him to a country that, I mean, against the court order. I mean, I don't need to review what it is. I feel like it if I start doing that too, I start getting the like, wow, it's just crazy.
yes.
But I think most people, look into it, and the Democrats and the Republicans specifically they have their little fandoms and they kind of have marching orders, so to speak. And the Democrats are on the right side of this one, obviously, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily for the right reasons. They may not be particularly educated about it either. But I would say that people who actually look into it, who are not necessarily committed to a team, I feel like it's very hard. It's very hard to come at that and go, we shouldn't bring this man back to this country.
I am sick of these cults. It is
I agree.
Anti-American, what they're doing. And, when they were going after Trump, and I was making the point of saying, okay, this is outrageous. You're payment for a porn star, trying to put the man in jail. And when Hillary Clinton did the same, well, she didn't pay a porn star, but getting the thing from
we don't know that.
Well, I don't know the flat fact, right? But getting the thing from Steele and then writing lawyers' fees. That's what they were getting Trump for, lawyers' fees. And they said, we need to put you in jail. Whereas the FCC hit Hillary Clinton with a fine, everybody was fine with it. Keep it moving.
Yep.
I don't like these cults. They're very dangerous. And what I mean by that is this notion of you following in lockstep. It's so anti-American. Because the reality of it is you should be above your cult in regards to, okay, what is the American position of this? What is due process? Because that's an American position. They put due process in because of kings, right? This notion that the king could throw somebody in jail randomly anytime they wanted to.
Yep.
That is this.
Well, yes, exactly. Except for instead of throwing them in jail, we're throwing them into random countries.
Right.
Like literally, like by all accounts, essentially random countries.
It's so outrageous. Like I feel like I want to scream, right? Because it's so outrageous. And I feel like I need to keep hammering that point on how outrageous it is. But that would be a boring show for me to do that for like 30 minutes.
Or it would be a well commodified outrage.
Commodified outrage.
But this is the difference between yourself and myself and that kind of a thing is in our heads. It's like, well, you can't just keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, in my head, you can't do it at all.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? And the court says, bring it back. You're like, whatever, man.
I don't know. I don't think you can. I think that he's stuck in El Salvador for reasons.
#reasons.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court 9-0, a conservative majority supreme.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a court. It's not a court that is like not sympathetic to Trump.
Right. They made him a king, for God's sake.
More
And
or
they just voted
less,
him
like
out.
he put them all there. Like, well, not all of them, but like a fair
Most of them.
number of them are his. Like, and the fact that they're like, no, sorry, you can't do that. It's like, all right, well, maybe you should listen to this one, Trumpo. You know,
The American public thinks he's too harsh on the issue of immigration. They think his
well, it's
economic.
crazy. It's crazy that we've gone from, like, so if you think about during the campaign, we were talking about immigration from the perspective like the Democrats will not admit that there is a problem.
Right.
And there is a problem. That's absolutely true. But we've flip-flopped on that because of he's not actually handling the problem. What he's doing is he's just punitively like taking certain people and making them very visibly like just thrown into a random country, or in the case of Mahmoud Khalil, he states a certain opinion. Like that one, I think it's particularly egregious because he's more or less being targeted because he has an opinion.
Yeah.
That's as anti-American as you get. That's the First Amendment right there.
And he's not the only one. I mean,
and I don't care if somebody's not an American citizen. Everybody says, well, that only applies to American citizens. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. Like if we want to guarantee a right for people, like when we say all people are born equal, or all people are blankety blank, all people have unalienable rights, and suddenly you want to say that's just for the people in our country, that's bullshit. No.
Yeah.
If we have a constitution that guarantees people rights on the basis of their humanity, then they should have the right to have an opinion and not be tossed out of the country.
Agreed. And
now, is he
bringing
fentanyl in? Is he attacking people? Is he robbing banks like you said earlier?
Nope.
Like, no. But if he was, maybe that would be a different conversation. He's not. He just was advocating pro-Palestine. Like that's literally what that guy was doing.
And he's done it a few times, not just for Mahmoud. I mean, like somebody states in it, and even doing this thing where somebody shows up for a hearing so they can stay in the country and they grab the guy and throw him out the country. Like this stuff is outrageous. And there's no pushback. There's no response. There's nothing. It's just
and
Trump
the thing is
to toss people out the country. And so Trump tosses people out the country. And real quick, to your point, it's not like he's being successful on actual immigration issues.
Exactly.
It's just high profile stuff where the red meat eaters, they're like, oh, yeah, we love the fact that you threw that guy out of the country.
It's spectacle. Like he's generating spectacle to satisfy the demands that he was given during his campaign, because he's not actually solving the issue. Like, again, there is, and I know that people hate this idea. There are certain people who will just argue against you vehemently, but there are cartels and gangs that bring lots of fentanyl into this country, and it kills people. And that is an actual problem. And he's not actually doing anything about it.
Here's another poll, or multiple actually, on Trump. Trump's approval rating on April 23rd. Pew Research, 40 to 59, a 19-point drop. Fox News, 44 to 55, an 11-point drop. And a favorable network, right? Fox News. YouGov, a 6-point drop, 44 to 53. Rasmussen, a Republican poll, it always trends Republican, +2. It's always an outlier. Rasmussen is never right. And Nate Silver pointed out that Trump's second term average hits new low of -7 versus +11 at the beginning of his term. He comes in with a positive, and within a few months, less than 100 days, 11-point drop. And if you go for independents, it's like a 33-point drop.
Independence is what's important too, in my opinion, because they're the people who are attempting not to play the team sports. They're the people who, I mean, you kind of can't not play team sports without some kind of like radical agenda of some sort. But like the average everyday person who's not red and not blue, that's really the opinion that matters. And the thing is, I don't think that this is coming from like Trump derangement syndrome, for instance. There's a lot of, I am very vehemently against people getting Trump derangement. I think that that's insane, because I think that it plays right back into that team sports dynamic we were talking about as toxic a few minutes ago. But once you have that, you're not criticizing this guy on the real problems, and you're not willing to acknowledge that like the previous guy had a lot of those exact same problems, or the previous guy to that, or the previous guy to that, et cetera, et cetera. And then also when something goes well, you're not willing to acknowledge that. And I just think that that's a terrible viewpoint to come from. But when you look at the numbers, and they are going in this direction on essentially every poll, I mean, arguably just +2 on the Rasmussen is actually kind of a little grim, because that's only 2 points. But like, it's very clear that the country is not happy with the direction. And I think that a lot of people do also see through, like, they do see that this is spectacle as opposed to, like, it's just cruelty and violence as opposed to actually saw, like, the immigration problem. Again, we could talk about the fentanyl problem. We could talk about the fact that our immigration infrastructure more or less just dumps people in large cities, and that's not, it's neither humane towards the people, nor does it make the cities more livable for the people who are already there, etc. Like, there are reasons that this is a problem, not just for Americans, but also for the people who want to come into this country. Like, there's a lot at play in the immigration system that needs to be addressed, and he's not addressing it. He's just doing cruel shit, you know?
It's not just immigration. I mean, like,
no, it's
they're
not
responding to real world phenomena. I mean, like, the dollar drops 10%. He's raging a tariff war with the world out of the blue, something that he didn't necessarily tell anybody that he was going to do. The prices for things are going to go up. The economy is going to hit a recession, which means you're paying more because the dollar is weaker, and you're paying more because of the tariffs that they're effectively enacting during a recession where they're going to have mass layoffs. Here's the other thing. This where is it? I think I closed it. Damn it. Right here. The tariffs driving people out of business. Which obviously it was going to do because, at the point where you're having a trade war, it's a trade war. Tariffs driving thousands of layoffs at manufacturing plants. And this was April 22nd, 2025. Like, I could go to the dollar thing. I could go to, the trade war with China and the way that China has responded to it, going directly after, okay, we're not going to use your beef. We're not going to use your Boeing jets. We're not going to use, and going down the list in very targeted, specific ways of trying to injure and make that point clear. You're going to lose this. Trump cannot pull himself out of it, can't win it on its own, has tried to go to other countries. And because of the way he initiated his campaign, where he's like, sending Vance to browbeat Europe, calling them vassals. Well, I don't care what Europe thinks. Okay, well, now you need Europe to help you gang up on China, and they're saying F off. Japan's F off. All of these other countries, we are not damaging our trade relationship with China for you. So now what? So he has been relegated to, I'm talking to China on the phone. No, you're not. No, you're not. Like, all of this stuff is like insane. And this is the calamity of his administration. And one last point before I let you get back in. He cannot acknowledge how bad this is. And so he just lies. Like, the level of mendacity that's coming out of this White House is astonishing. Hegseth just lies directly to the camera about the signal leak, the first one. And it's like, whoa, dude, you realize everybody knows you're lying, right? When Trump said, oh, the trade war is going great. No, it's not. Oh, no. We're going to get a deal or we're going to leave. And then later it's like, okay, we got 2 weeks to have a conversation with Russia. Okay, dude, you need to make up your mind on what you're doing.
Man, that Nintendo Switch was announced at a very high MSRP anyway. We aren't looking forward to what that looks like in a year.
Right. And not to mention the market. The stock market was just clapping 1,000 every day. Bam, 1,000, bam, 1,000, bam, 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire Jerome Powell. And then it's like, I don't want to say anything about Jerome Powell. He's not going anywhere. 2 days later.
Well, so here's the problem, or at least a problem, not necessarily the problem. But what he's proven is that he can just go in a direction, and theoretically could just change direction. You, I think, noted the most important thing, which is that he is not acknowledging that they've made a mistake. Because if he could do that, you could change all of this stuff tomorrow, because he's proven that he changed all of it, overnight anyway. So if you do that, you can undo that. I mean, it will require some humble pie to be eaten, of course, but if he was capable of eating some humble pie, this isn't something that couldn't be turned around. And that's the thing that I think is the most upsetting about it to me, because he has clearly a lot of power, and he has clearly a lot of ability to make changes. Like we've seen that's clear. The president, we are getting a clear outline of what a president can actually do during this administration. And while that's not necessarily a good thing, the way that it's gone, it is a good thing in that we also know if he wanted to change public opinion on himself, he could go, actually, I'm doing it wrong. Maybe we should change direction. He could do that. And to me, that's the most upsetting thing about it right now, is that he's not.
It's a credibility. Well, for one, Trump is a tiny, petty man.
Yes, he is a petty man.
I cannot see him. I mean, I've said he's amoral to the truth. Doesn't care what it is. He just says whatever. So there's that problem right there. Honestly, I would have never put somebody in a position of that level of power that can be that mendacious. It's like you can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth. He has no credibility leading a country that has very little credibility, even without him.
Yeah, we're not exactly the most well-liked country in the world.
No, no, we're not, right? And he has taken that to the nth degree of, what's wild about Trump? And what I actually do like about him, he's honest in regards to the way the U.S. sees its vassals. That you put Vance on camera saying, I don't care where your things. I don't care. We're taking Greenland. And you're like, whoa. The vice president just said he doesn't care what what we call them allies, think at all. Okay, that's pretty intense. Now the catch becomes, did Joe Biden care what they thought?
Probably not. Absolutely not. Joe Biden didn't know what they thought.
It's just wow. I mean,
listen up, Jack. Well, never mind. He didn't know, but he wouldn't have cared. It's not like he would have.
Yeah, he's an American president.
Yeah, none of them cared.
Do you think this is worse than you thought, or about what you thought it was going to be?
To me, I don't really have stern expectations one way or the other with him.
Yeah,
because I feel like, again, the point that I just made, which is that we've got a clear demonstration of what he can do. It, to me, demonstrates, because he's such an unpredictable person, he could have gone the exact opposite direction and put us on a good track. It really is almost whims with this man. And where I would say maybe that's kind of what makes him different from a previous president. And maybe that's, as much as I don't like where we are right now, what kind of makes him preferable to a different president. I think that people almost prefer the idea that, this guy could screw it up. He could experiment and go the wrong direction. At least he'd be trying. Yeah. But I don't. I think that's a charitable read, obviously, and it's not exactly my personal read, but it's in trying to figure out exactly where people are coming from, why. I do think that in certain ways, this is a demonstration of what people wanted. It's just that maybe people didn't completely understand what they wanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Ironically, Trump could get a deal with Iran.
Absolutely. See, that's the thing.
Yeah. No,
I agree with you. I very much agree with you on that. I think that, again, especially with these polls coming, I think polls, as much as he acts like he doesn't care about them, he like his whole thing about being a president is being well liked. Like
Right.
that's what this man cares about.
Ego.
So if this man is actually paying attention, and he is, let's be clear, this is a very tuned in media president. He should know what's going on here. And in theory, that could, and this is why I was saying I was frustrated earlier, because we aren't really seeing any signs that this is what could happen. But he very much could pivot in the other direction. They're not liking this. I should do something else. Would just change up the act mid it's on the stage. Oh, you guys don't like that? Well, how about this? Like a stand-up comedian, start doing some crowd work, man.
And he could get a deal with Russia. I mean, granted, he's going to have to move.
He has to. He's got a lot of fire under his ass if he's going to start doing any of that kind of stuff, because this direction that we're currently in, it's not taking us to those places, just to be clear. Yeah. And if he continues on this path and doesn't pivot, because he could, again, I want to emphasize, he could pivot. That's the most frustrating. In fact, I think it's the most frustrating thing. Like, we've been proven that you can change direction very fast as the U.S. president, just from the last couple of months. We've got that as proof positive now. A president can come in and have a completely, well, not necessarily completely different, but in a lot of ways, very different agenda than the previous one. Change direction. He could do that the other way too. And not necessarily go back to the Joe Biden way, but go in a direction that is, BRICS focus. Go in a direction that is.
I agree with you, 1,000%. Because what I realized with Trump when he came in, this shows the limits of presidential power. Like, for the longest time, it's like history defines you and what a president does. And Trump came in as like, okay, ripping up the book. I'm doing something different. I'm going to end the war in Ukraine. And this is after 3 years of Joe Biden. This is, well, even going back before Joe Biden, like to Obama, et cetera, in the way they dealt with Russia, with European leaders foaming at the mouth, just one whack job vassal after the next, ready and, etching for war. He's like, we're done. Calling it a day. Yeah. Now, mind you, he hasn't called it a day, right? He's still saying just Joe Biden's war, but he's still doing this stuff. But I'm pointing out, like, Europe is freaking out for a reason.
Yeah.
He just overnight. Joe Biden was not interested in dealing with Iran. I mean, Iran even said as much. Trump goes, now granted, the way he's doing it is grotesque. Like, just grotesque to the hilt. But he's like, I'm going to make a deal with Iran. And that's the way he's, it shows what a president could do if they were good. And I'm saying good in the sense of if they were actually doing God's work.
Yes.
It's just he's
or intelligently trying to one could also argue that it may not even be that it's good bad. It may just be dumb smart. Like in all seriousness. But like one way or the other, like we're being shown what the president can actually do. And there's another piece of frustration I have. There's another piece of frustration I have in this. And that it takes us back to the Obama supermajority, in which we go back to that and we find out, if Barack Obama just had the will to do a real healthcare system, to codify Roe versus Wade, to actually like move forward the agenda that he proposed while he campaigned, he could have.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, you cannot argue against it. They had a super majority. They had the exact same thing Trump has now. And
Obama had 60 votes in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, actually. So yes, it was more favorable.
Yeah, 6 votes. I mean, granted, he lost it at one point, but
he did.
He had 60 votes in the Senate. He could have did whatever he wanted.
He could have, you could have done the months that he had it, which was enough time to have enacted enough of the agenda. Like, you can't tell me that they couldn't have rammed a bunch of stuff through. They could have, because he's done it. It's April,
And by the way, Trump was signing one executive order after the next. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Take me to court. Take me to this. I mean, like, it shows. I'm not even saying the limits of presidential power. It shows what the president can do if he puts his mind to it. That's why when you said he was doing less, and I was like, less on what specific? Because he's hyperactive.
Yeah, in
Like,
the raw numbers in terms of addressing immigration, he's doing less. But the reason I say that is because what he's actually doing is just he's honing in on certain things and making big spectacles out of it. Now, arguably, no, he's not doing less overall.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, in terms of the raw numbers, like the results, it's not the same thing.
He hasn't done a goddamn thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, I think Malik described it as a lot of unfinished business.
Yes.
That's a nice way of saying he didn't do shit.
Right. Yeah. No, that's I would say that's a perfect way of putting it.